Hello everybody and welcome to ASAP Physics. In this video, we will be covering what covalent bonds are and how to write their prefix naming conventions. So now let's first talk about what a covalent bond is. Covalent bond. So a covalent bond is different from an ionic bond in such that a covalent bond is a sharing of electrons between two nonmetals. Now, if you recall from our last video, an ionic bond is a complete transfer. The key word is complete transfer. A complete transfer of electrons between a metal and a nonmetal. That's also really important. Covalent bonds happen between two nonmetals, while ionic bonds happen between a metal and a nonmetal. So, let's first figure out how to make a formula for a covalent bond. So now the first thing we need to figure out and memorize in this chemistry class are the prefixes. So let's list our numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and prefixes that you're supposed to know in order to be able to write a formula or write the naming conventions of a covalent bond is to know these prefixes. So for 1, it's going to be mono. For 2, it's going to be di. For 3, it's going to be tri. For 4, it's going to be tetra. And for number 5, it's going to be penta. So these are the most 5 important prefixes that you need to know in order to basically do the naming conventions for a covalent bond. So let's keep this highlighted in red because we need this. Sorry for that. Okay, so coming back to this. So let's say we have NO. Let's say that you see this on a quiz and you need to name this now. So the first thing that you need to basically realize here is this is a covalent bond. This is because nitrogen is a nonmetal and oxygen is a nonmetal. If it was a metal and a nonmetal, then that would be an ionic bond. And see my previous video on that in order to see how to name and write the formulas for that. Okay, so anyway, so the naming convention here is there's one nitrogen and one oxygen. Whenever there's no subscript, then it's just 1, 1. So as we come to the table, we see 1 is mono. But there's one important rule that we need to know here. So for the first element in a covalent formula, if it's 1, as you can see here, you do not include the mono. So this would just be nitrogen. Now, for the second part, it's 1, so we include the mono. It's going to be monoxide. So that's how the naming convention works. Now, it might seem confusing because why don't we include the mono for the first part? Well, that's a naming convention rule that you need to know because in the first element for the covalent bond, you do not include the mono if it's 1. So let's say if it was N2O1, then we would say dinitrogen, sorry for that, it's an I, sorry, dinitrogen monoxide. So let's do a few more examples and wrap this video up. So let's have the example Cl2, so which is chlorine, and there's 2 of them because it's a chlorine gas. So Cl2O7. We don't have 7 on this table, so let's just keep this as O5 for now. So if we have Cl2O5, what this is going to be is Cl2, we see that's going to be dichloride and pentaoxide. And that's how simple it is. It's pretty simple to name covalent bonds compared to ionic bonds because you don't need to figure out the charges or nothing like that. So anyway, just remember the mono rule for the first element. You don't include mono for the first element, but any other 2, 3, 4, 5, you had to use the di, tri, tetra, penta for the first element, and same as for the second element, except you could use mono for that one. Thank you for listening to this video on covalent bonds.